Joy Stevens' life was destroyed in less than 10 seconds. One moment, she was the star
Thank
artist
you
of the
so much
biggest
for
exhibition
coming.
of her career. The next, security guards were emptying her handbag onto the floor. The entire gallery had gone silent. Collectors, investors, journalists, and art critics. Every pair of eyes in the room was fixed on her. Then it happened. A rolled canvas worth nearly $2 million slid from her bag and landed at her feet. A gasp swept through the exhibition hall. No. Joy whispered, her face draining of color. I didn't take the painting, but nobody believed her, including some of the artists she had worked beside for years. The murmur started immediately. She stole it. I knew she was too ambitious. Imagine risking your career for money. Standing only a few feet away, her best friend Stella Morgan slowly covered her mouth in fake shock. Inside, she was celebrating. Everything had gone exactly according to plan. For months, she had watched the powerful Korean Mafia boss, Yi-jun, pay attention to Joy instead of her and admire Joy's paintings. The attention Stella believed belonged to her had gone to someone else. Tonight, she believed that would change. But there was one problem. While everyone else was staring at the stolen painting, Yi-jun was not staring at the accused. He was looking at someone else whose reaction made absolutely no sense months earlier. The smell of paint lingered in the morning air as Joy Stephen unlocked the side entrance of Busan Butage Gallery. Joy loved this hour. It was the only time the gallery truly belonged to the art. She carefully carried a canvas toward the restoration room, humming softly to herself. Here early again. Joy smiled before even turning around. I could say the same thing. Stella Morgan walked toward her carrying 2 cups of coffee, like always.
I brought you some coffee. Oh, perfect timing.
One for herself and for Joy. Your bad habit is making me wake up early, Stella said, handing her a cup. Joy laughed. And your bad habit is complaining about it. 2 friends walked through the quiet gallery together. To anyone watching, they seemed inseparable. And for years they had been. When Joy first joined the gallery, she knew almost nobody. Stella had been the first person to welcome her. What are you working on now? Stella asked. Joy hesitated. A new painting. Stella groaned dramatically. Another one. You ever stop painting? Joy laughed. It's the only thing I'm good at. Stella rolled her eyes. That statement should be illegal. Joy didn't notice the shadow that briefly crossed Stella's face because Joy never saw herself the way others saw her. She didn't see the talent or admiration plus the attention she quietly attracted. Stella saw all of it every single day. And sometimes it bothered her more than she cared to admit. 2 weeks later, excitement spread throughout the gallery. The news arrived during a staff meeting. The director stood at the front of the room with a grin stretching across his face. Ladies and gentlemen, we have secured a major investor. Room immediately erupted. Who would that be? The director smiled. Yi-jun. Then gasps. Everyone knew him. Yi-jun wasn't merely wealthy. He was powerful. His investments and influence had transformed companies, and despite his intimidating reputation, he possessed one of the most respected private art collections in the world. He'll be visiting next week, the director announced. Make sure everything is perfect. The moment the meeting ended, excitement exploded throughout the gallery. Nobody seemed more excited than Stella. For the next several days, she talked about little else. What should I wear? Do you think he'll come alone? I heard he's incredibly handsome. Joy simply laughed. You haven't even met him. That's not the point. Joy shook her head. Sound ridiculous. Stella smiled. Maybe she did, but she couldn't help it. A man like Yi-jun don't walk into your life every day. The following Thursday, the gallery doors opened at exactly 10 o'clock. Conversation immediately died slowly. Several visitors turned. Even the staff paused. Yi-jun had arrived. He entered surrounded by quiet confidence, no bodyguards. His red suit was perfect and he was incredibly handsome. Impossible to ignore. Stella straightened immediately. Her heartbeat quickened. This was her moment. She approached with her brightest smile. Welcome to Busan Butage Gallery, Mr. Yi-jun. Yi-jun nodded politely. Thank you. Before Stella could continue, his attention drifted elsewhere, toward a small painting hanging near the end of the corridor. His footsteps slowed. The painting showed a young child sitting beside an empty chair, heartbreaking. For several seconds, Yi-jun said nothing. The gallery around him seemed to disappear, because suddenly he was remembering his mother, the woman who taught him to paint before teaching him anything else. Had once told him, real art isn't meant to impress people, it's meant to reach them. And somehow this painting did. A small name appeared beneath the frame, Joy Stevens. Slowly, Yi-jun turned. And for the first time, his eyes landed on the artist herself. Across the room, Stella watched the entire exchange. and something cold settled deep inside her chest. She realized Yi-jun wasn't looking at her. Stella told herself it didn't matter. It's just one glance that was all it had been. Yi-jun would eventually notice her sooner or later, men always did. But the days that followed began proving her wrong. Because Yi-jun came back and every visit seemed to follow the same pattern. He would walk through the gallery, exchange a few words with the director, observe several exhibits, then somehow find himself standing near Joy's artwork. At first, Stella convinced herself it was coincidence. By the fifth visit, she knew it wasn't. The realization irritated her more than she wanted to admit, especially because Joy appeared completely unaware. One afternoon, Stella found Joy adjusting a display in one of the exhibition rooms. "He's here again," Stella said casually. Joy looked up. "Who, Yi-jun?" Joy simply nodded. "Oh," Stella blinked. "That's your reaction? What reaction am I supposed to have? The man practically buys a ticket to breathe the same air as your paintings." Joy laughed. "Exaggerating." "I'm really not." Joy returned to her work. That only made Stella more frustrated. Most women would have been thrilled and chasing the attention. Joy wasn't, and somehow that made Yi-jun even more interested. A week later, Yi-jun arrived during a quiet afternoon. Rain tapped gently against the windows. The gallery was nearly empty. Joy sat alone near one of her paintings, sketchbook balanced on her lap. She didn't notice him approaching. "You changed the background." His voice startled her. She looked up quickly. Yi-jun stood beside the painting. Joy followed his gaze. "Noticed?" The original version had darker tones. Joy stared at him. Most people barely noticed the painting itself. This man remembered details from an earlier version. A faint smile appeared on her face. "I wasn't happy with it." "What was wrong with it?" Joy considered the question. Sadness felt unfinished. Yi-jun's eyes lingered on the painting, then he surprised her. "I agree." For a second, Joy simply stared. Then she laughed, and nobody had ever understood that particular painting so quickly. The conversation lasted only 5 minutes. Yet when Yi-jun finally left, he purchased the artwork. It wasn't expensive, but it was fashionable, and he genuinely wanted it. That night, Stella learned about the purchase, and something inside her snapped. The problem wasn't merely that Yi-jun admired Joy's paintings. The problem was he pays more attention to her than anyone else, and here she admires him. He remembered things Joy said and asked questions. The attention Stella desperately wanted was being given to someone who wasn't even trying to earn it. Every day, the jealousy grew. Meanwhile, Joy remained oblivious. She still treated Stella the same way, still shared lunch with her, laughed with her, and trusted her completely, which somehow made everything worse. Because Stella wasn't dealing with an enemy, she was competing against her best friend. And she was losing. One evening, the gallery director gathered the staff together. His excitement was impossible to hide. "Have good news." Everyone turned toward him. "Autumn Masters exhibition has been officially approved." Room filled with excitement. This exhibition wasn't just another event. It was the biggest showcase of the year. Collectors from around the world would attend. Journalists would cover it. Investors would be present. Careers could be made there. The director continued. "We'll be displaying several new acquisitions, including a private loan piece valued at nearly $2 million. Gasps echoed throughout the room. The director smiled. "And one emerging artist from our gallery will also receive a featured section." Immediately, the room became silent. Everyone knew what that meant. A career-changing opportunity. The director opened a folder, then looked up. "Joy Stephen." A second, Joy thought she had heard incorrectly. "Me," the director nodded. "You." Room burst into applause. Joy sat frozen, overwhelmed, speechless. Across the room, Stella forced a smile that felt heavier than stone. Because in that moment, every fear she had been trying to ignore suddenly became real. Yi-jun admired Joy. The gallery admired Joy. Now the exhibition would spotlight Joy. Everything was moving in Joy's direction, and Stella was tired of standing in the shadows. That night, she sat alone in her apartment. The city lights glowed outside her window. Her phone rested on the table, then a photograph of the exhibition inventory was displayed on the screen. She stared at it for a long time, particularly at one item. The priceless painting scheduled to arrive the week before the exhibition. Worth nearly $2 million, protected by security, insured for an enormous amount, untouchable. Slowly, an idea began forming in her head, and it was a terrible one. One she should have rejected immediately, but instead, she leaned closer to the screen. And the longer she stared, the more reasonable it seemed. Because if Joy Stephen disappeared from the spotlight, everything could go back to the way it was before. By the time Stella finally went to sleep that night, the first pieces of a dangerous plan had already fallen into place. and she had no intention of turning back. The week before the Autumn Masters exhibition arrived, the gallery transformed almost overnight. New lighting fixtures were installed. Security systems were upgraded. Rare artworks arrived under armed supervision. Every corner of Busen Butage Gallery buzzed with anticipation. For Joy, the excitement felt unreal. For years, she had watched other artists receive opportunities she could only dream about. Now, for the first time, one of those opportunities belonged to her. She should have been celebrating. Instead, she spent most days worrying. "What if nobody likes my work, sir?" she asked one afternoon. Yi-jun looked up from the painting he was studying. The question seemed to genuinely confuse him. "Do you like your work?" Joy hesitated. "That's different, sir." "No," his voice remained calm. "It's not." She frowned. Yi-jun turned toward her. "You should believe in yourself and do what you know how to do best, create something honest." Joy laughed softly. "That's easy for you to say, sir." "Why?" "Because you're successful." The first time something unreadable crossed his face, success. People loved that word, they loved the result, few cared about the path. "My mother was an artist," he said quietly. Joy immediately noticed the shift in his tone. It was different, more personal. "She taught me how to paint." Joy remained silent. Yi-jun rarely spoke about himself. "When I was young, she used to tell me that most people look at paintings without actually seeing them." His eyes drifted toward one of her canvases. "She would have liked your work." Joy froze. Of all the compliments she had ever received, none touched her the way that one did, because she understood immediately how much it meant. Across the gallery floor, Stella watched everything. The conversations, smiles, and growing connection. Every day, the knot inside her chest tightened. Every day, her plan felt more justified, at least in her mind, because she had stopped seeing Joy as a friend. Now she only saw an obstacle. 3 days before the exhibition, the priceless painting finally arrived. The artwork was transported in a reinforced crate. Security personnel accompanied it every step of the way. Even gallery employees were restricted from accessing the room where it would be stored. Everyone treated the painting as though it were made of gold. Its value certainly suggested so, as staff members gathered around to admire it from a distance. Stella stood quietly among them. She paid attention to security schedules. Storage locations, access points, small details, and while everyone else focused on protecting the artwork, Stella focused on stealing it, long enough to place it somewhere else and devastating. The night before the exhibition, Joy stayed late. She wanted everything perfect. Most employees had already gone home. Only a handful remained. Around 9 o'clock, Stella approached her, holding 2 cups of coffee, just like old times. For a moment, Joy smiled. It felt familiar, comforting, and normal. "You should go home," Stella said. "So should you," Stella laughed. "Probably." They sat together for nearly an hour, talking about nothing important, old memories, funny customers, embarrassing mistakes. For a brief moment, it almost felt like their friendship hadn't changed. As Joy laughed at one of Stella's stories, she never noticed the sadness hidden behind Stella's smile, because somewhere beneath the jealousy, a small part of Stella knew exactly what she was about to destroy, and that made her hate herself almost as much as she hated Joy. The next morning arrived, which was the exhibition day. The biggest day of Joy's career. Guests began arriving before noon. Luxury cars lined the street outside. Reporters gathered near the entrance. Collectors flew in from different countries. The atmosphere inside the gallery felt electric. Joy barely had time to breathe. Everywhere she turned, someone wanted her attention, photographs, interviews, and to discuss her paintings. The success she had dreamed about for years was finally happening. And Stella watched every second of it. It was everything she had wanted too. Yet somehow it belonged to Joy. By evening, the gallery was packed. Champagne flowed freely. Conversations filled the room. Then disaster struck. A gallery employee rushed toward the director and panicked, "Sir," whispering urgently. The director's expression changed instantly. "What do you mean it's missing?" The room gradually fell silent. A chill spread through the crowd. The priceless painting, the $2 million masterpiece, had disappeared. Suddenly, security personnel were everywhere. Doors were locked. Guests were asked to remain inside. Panic replaced celebration. Joy stood frozen among the crowd, trying to understand what was happening. Then security began searching bags, one by one, guest after guest, employee after employee, until finally they reached Joy. She handed over her bag without hesitation. Why wouldn't she? She had nothing to hide. The guard opened it, reached inside, and slowly pulled out a rolled canvas. The room went silent. Joy's heart skipped, because she already knew what it was. Her life had just got off switch at this moment and somewhere in the crowd. Stella Morgan realized there was no turning back now. The security guard held it carefully as dozens of eyes followed every movement until it was unrolled. The room froze. For a heartbeat, there was only silence. Then, the murmur began, a wave of realization sweeping through the gallery as they looked at the missing masterpiece. Joy stared at the artwork in disbelief. Her mind struggled to process what she was seeing. It didn't make sense. I didn't do this. The words left her lips. Never even touched that painting. But her voice sounded small, lost beneath the weight of the evidence. The gallery director looked devastated. Several investors exchanged uncomfortable glances. A journalist immediately began taking photographs. Each burst of light felt like another nail being driven into her reputation. Joy. The director's voice carried disappointment, somehow that hurt even more. I didn't do it. Director, Joy repeated. The security guards remained expressionless. The guests remained skeptical. The painting had been found inside her bag. No explanation could change that except solid evidence. Across the room, whispers multiplied. Unbelievable. I thought she was talented. What a waste. People will do anything for money. Every sentence felt like a blade. Joy wanted to scream and tell them they were wrong. Anyone, to believe her at least, just believe her. Then she looked across the room, and her eyes found Stella, her best friend, the one person she trusted most. Surely Stella would defend her, she would say something. Instead, Stella stood frozen among the crowd. Her expression perfectly crafted, the performance was flawless. And Joy believed every second of it, because she had no reason not to. But someone else was watching, Yi-jun. Unlike everyone else, he wasn't looking at the painting nor Joy. He was looking directly at Stella, and what he saw bothered him. Her reaction wasn't right. While everyone else reacted after seeing the painting, Stella had reacted before it was fully unrolled. One most people would never notice. Yi-jun noticed because details mattered. And right now, Stella Morgan looked like a woman trying very hard to appear surprised. Security escorted Joy into a private office. Questions came one after another. Where had she been? Who had she spoken to? Did she know where the painting had been stored? Had she entered restricted areas? The interrogation lasted nearly an hour. By the end of it, Joy felt the heat creeping up her neck, her skin prickling under the gaze of 100 strangers. Every answer and explanation sounded useless, because no matter what she said, the painting had still been found inside her bag. Finally, the questioning ended. Joy sat alone in the office, staring at the floor, her hands trembling. Then the door opened. Joy looked up. Yi-jun stepped inside. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then he quietly closed the door behind him. I know you didn't do it. Joy blinked. The words caught her completely off guard. Sir, you didn't steal the painting. Certainty in his voice stunned her. Everyone else doubted her, yet somehow he didn't. I don't have proof, sir. My future is ruined. How can I ever get out of this? Joy said. Yi-jun studied her for a moment, then he gave a simple answer. Because whoever planned this wanted the painting found. Joy looked at him in silence. What do you mean, sir? If someone wanted to steal it, they would have taken it away from the gallery. He leaned against the desk. Instead, it was hidden in your bag. Understanding slowly appeared in Joy's eyes. They wanted me blamed. The word landed heavily between them. For the first time that day, hope flickered inside her. Someone believed her. Meanwhile, Stella couldn't sleep. The exhibition had ended hours ago. The city outside her apartment remained awake. Cars moved through the streets below. Lights glowed beyond her window. But her attention remained fixed on her phone. News articles had already begun appearing online. Young artist accused of stealing priceless painting. Scandal at Busan Butage Gallery. Emerging talent under investigation. Everything should have felt satisfying. This was what she wanted to end Joy's career. Her spotlight was gone. So why did Stella feel uneasy? That when she remembered Yi-jun. Throughout the entire scandal, he had barely spoken. He didn't even look disappointed. If anything, he had looked thoughtful. The memory sent a chill through her. The next morning, Yi-jun began his own investigation quietly. He requested security footage, reviewed employee schedules, and studied access records. Most people assumed he was protecting the gallery's investment. Only Yi-jun knew what he was searching for, and with every piece of information he uncovered, the trail led closer to Stella Morgan. A security camera had briefly captured someone entering a restricted hallway. A staff access card had been used at an unusual time. A witness remembered seeing Stella near the storage area. Individually, none of it proved anything. Together, they painted a troubling picture. Yi-jun had spent years dismantling criminal organizations. Compared to that, uncovering one jealous woman's scheme was hardly difficult. The real question wasn't whether Stella had done it. It was why. Every clue pointed toward the same thing. Jealousy. While the investigation continued, Joy remained suspended from the gallery. Her paintings were removed from display. Media outlets continued speculating. Former supporters distanced themselves. The world she had spent years building collapsed in a matter of days. Then one afternoon, there was a knock on her studio door. Joy opened it and found Yi-jun standing there for the first time since the scandal began. A genuine smile touched his face. "I think," he said calmly, "I found the person who framed you." Joy stared at him. For a moment, she wasn't sure she had heard correctly. "What did you say, sir?" Yi-jun smiled. "I said I found the person who framed you." Yi-jun stepped inside. Joy's heartbeat quickened. For days, she had replayed the exhibition in her mind, searching for answers and finding none. Now Yi-jun was standing in front of her, speaking with the same calm certainty he always carried. "You know who did it?" "I do," Joy swallowed. "Who?" For the first time since arriving, Yi-jun hesitated, not because he doubted the evidence, because he knew the answer would hurt. "It's Stella." The room seemed to tilt. Joy immediately shook her head. "No." Her response came so quickly it almost overlapped his words. "No." Yi-jun remained silent. "That's impossible." Denial sounded weaker the second time. "Stella would never." Her voice trailed off, because suddenly memories began surfacing. Stella's growing irritation whenever Yi-jun visited. The subtle comments disguised as jokes. Joy allowed herself to consider something she had been unwilling to see. Maybe she hadn't known Stella as well as she thought. Yi-jun carefully placed a folder on the table. Inside were photographs, security reports, access logs, witness statements. Piece by piece, the truth emerged. And with every page Joy read, the pain deepened. Her closest friend. The betrayal hurt far more than the accusation. By the time Joy reached the final page, tears blurred her vision. She closed the folder and quietly looked away. 3 days later, Busan Butage Gallery held an emergency board meeting everyone attended, including Stella. She arrived confident. The investigation had gone quiet. Surely that meant she was safe. Then the conference room doors opened, and Yi-jun entered. The atmosphere changed instantly. Without a word, he placed a folder on the conference table. Then he looked directly at Stella. Genuine fear appeared in her eyes. Yi-jun asked the board members to go through the folder and see what it contains for themselves. And so they began checking one piece at a time. By the end, everybody was shocked at what their eyes was seeing. The silence became unbearable. Then finally, the gallery director spoke. "Is any of this untrue?" Stella's mouth opened. No answer came. The evidence was overwhelming. The truth had finally caught up to her. And as for the joy since the exhibition, she now felt the weight on her chest begin to lift, knowing she was free. News traveled quickly, faster than Stella had ever imagined. Within days, articles appeared correcting the story. The young artist had been framed, and real culprit had been exposed during the executives' meeting. Public opinion shifted. Support returned and apologies arrived. People who had once condemned Joy suddenly praised her again. The hypocrisy wasn't lost on her, but she no longer cared. Because something more important had happened. She had learned who truly stood beside her when everything fell apart. Several weeks later, Joy's paintings returned to the gallery. This time, something felt different. Visitors gathered around her work. Collectors showed interest. Critics wrote favorable reviews. The recognition she had always dreamed of was finally arriving. Yet the moment she remembered most happened on a quiet afternoon. She was standing in front of a painting when Yi-jun approached. "Hey, guessed you feeling happy now?" He said, "I feel natural, sir." "You were right, and thank you so much for not giving up on me. For trusting me." June glanced toward her, a faint smile. Joy nodded. For a moment, neither looked away. Something passed between them, then Yi-jun spoke. "My mother would have liked you. And I do like you too, and I want you to my woman forever." The words hit harder than he intended. Because Joy understood what they meant. This wasn't about art anymore, and judging by the expression in his eyes, he knew it too. "Sir," Joy said. Yi-jun quickly stopped her. "No need to keep calling me sir. Just get me a pet name you like to call me." Both smiled at each other. Across the city, Stella watched the news from her apartment. The consequences of her actions had action. Her career, reputation, friendship was gone. Most painful of all, the life she had wanted now belonged to someone else. Out of jealousy, she had destroyed her own future trying to take Joy's. She understood what that has now caused her. Months later, Joy stood inside the largest exhibition of her career. Her paintings filled an entire wing of the gallery. Collectors had traveled from different countries to attend. Her work is praised, Investors competed to acquire pieces. Everything she once dreamed about had become reality, yet her attention wasn't on the crowd. It was on the man standing beside her, Yi-jun, the man who had believed her when nobody else did, who had slowly become the most important person in her life. Joyce smiled. Yi-jun returned it. And beneath the glow of the gallery lights, surrounded by the art that had changed both their lives, they quietly stepped into a future neither of them had expected to find together. Oh my gosh, what a story. Old and new members are welcome, and I still remain Charles, your writer and director of Secret Mafia Love. See you all in the next one.